Welcome back. As 2027 gets closer, you can really feel the buzz in Nigeria, can't you?
Absolutely.
There's this growing conversation, and it's not just about, who might run. It feels deeper, like a real sense that the country needs a totally new political direction.
Mm-hmm.
If you're one of the many Nigerians feeling that deep desire for real change,
Mm-hmm.
maybe looking for some signs of new possibilities, then this deep dive is definitely for you.
Yeah.
Today, we're getting into a pretty powerful call for political renewal. It comes from a group called the Nigerian Patriotic Youth, and it's laid out in their piece, Nigeria's Political Renewal, a call for transformative leadership.
That's quite something.
It really is, an insightful look at what some people believe just has to happen next.
And this deep dive, it goes beyond just, saying we want change. We're going to dissect a very specific, very detailed critique of past leadership failures, and crucially, their concrete vision for Nigeria's future, a transformative future. We'll really explore how this document speaks directly to the hopes of people rooting for a different kind of leadership come 2027.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The Nigerian Patriotic Youth, they paint, a pretty clear and critical picture of Nigeria's political journey since 1999.
Very critical.
They point fingers at what they call pioneer politicians and ruling oligarchs, essentially a sort of consistent elite group.
The same faces, different parties sometimes.
Exactly. That, in their view, has pretty much monopolized political power since the return to civilian rule. This group has overseen this will be the 8th election cycle now?
That's right, the 8th cycle in this democratic era.
And what's really striking is their core assertion that this political class has, and I'm quoting here, consistently failed to address the systemic issues facing the country.
Not just fail to address them.
No, they go further, don't they?
No.
The piece actually argues these leaders turned out to be the major problem of the country.
That's a heavy charge.
It is. And the evidence they point to is stark. Entrenched poverty, widespread illiteracy, really stark inequality, and escalating insecurity. It's a pretty scathing assessment.
Yeah.
And their analysis goes even further, suggesting that under this leadership, Nigeria, and they specifically mention the North here,
Yes, they do.
became a global emblem of unrealized potential, headquarters of poverty, and laughingstock of the world. Strong words.
Very strong. And they argue this stems from a core leadership problem, this ethos of prioritizing personal gain over collective good.
That seems to be the crux of it.
And what's truly insightful here, I think, is how the document doesn't just critique, it meticulously details the methods used by this ruling class. This leads to a system they call short-termism.
Short-termism. Okay.
It wasn't just like accidental failure, according to them. They argue it was almost an engineered approach.
Engineered? How so?
Well, they list things like patronage networks, electoral manipulation, subterfuge, and the compromise of judicial process. It really paints a picture of a comprehensive strategy to just hold on to power, not necessarily serve the public good.
Wow. So a system designed for holding power, not for progress.
That's the argument. And this short-termism, where immediate political wins always trump long-term national planning, it's had profound consequences.
Like what?
The Nigerian Patriotic Youth contend it's led to nothing less than the collapse of the Nigerian society, where the ordinary people, the populace, remain marginalized, their potential stifled by just a lack of opportunities, systemic neglect.
A grim picture.
It is. And it leads them to a very strong conclusion,
Right.
that no form of alliance among them, meaning this existing political class, will change their political philosophy beyond mere acquisition of power for narrow interests.
So shuffling the deck chairs won't help.
Pretty much. They argue it demands a major political shift. This isn't just about dissatisfaction, it's a call for a complete reorientation of the entire political landscape.
Okay, we've painted that pretty stark picture of the past based on their critique. So moving from that to maybe a solution, what does this political renewal actually look like? It sounds like it's way more than just, changing who's in charge, right?
Absolutely. Much more.
The document defines this renewal as being led by a new generation group with new vision, innovation, and moral clarity to redirect the political trajectory.
New vision, innovation, moral clarity. Key terms there.
Definitely. And they stress this isn't about small tweaks. It's a fundamental shift. The goal is to usher in new leaderships equipped with fresh ideas, acumen, and genuine commitment to public service.
A whole new cadre of leaders.
Exactly. A cadre of new leaders that is well-informed, globally connected, and fair-minded. It's incredibly ambitious, this vision.
It is ambitious.
But it certainly seems to align with what many Nigerians are hoping for, especially as we look towards 2027.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the urgency they feel for this renewal, it's deeply rooted in the current deepening national crises.
Right.
The Nigerian patriotic youth, they explicitly link these crises, poverty, insurgency, directly to governance failures. There's a clear correlation between poverty, insurgency, and governance failures in their analysis.
So they're not seeing these as separate issues.
Not at all. They're symptoms of a deeper political problem, a malaise. They even bring in Ted Gurr's assertion
Oh, interesting. What's that?
that when expectations go up and results go down, men rebel, and they make it incredibly relevant to Nigeria's situation.
Oh, so.
Well, the document basically argues it's the unfulfilled promises of the oligarchs that have over time bred frustration and disillusionment in society.
Okay, I see the connection.
And this frustration, this disillusionment, ultimately fuels things like insurgencies, banditry, ethnic tensions, even calls for separatism. It really paints a vivid picture of how political failure can destabilize, well, an entire nation.
That's powerful.
And the piece issues a stark warning, too. It says, as long as the current oligarchs remain in or return to power, the cyclical nature of these issues will persist.
So for them, change isn't just desirable. It's presented as absolutely necessary, a desperate necessity.
Precisely.
All right, so beyond just identifying the problem, and this is where it gets really interesting, the Nigerian patriotic youth, they lay out a comprehensive vision, the kind of leadership a new Nigeria demands. It's not just competent, but principled, too. Less of a complaint, more like a detailed roadmap.
Yes, a blueprint, almost.
This transformative leadership, they argue, needs to be built on 5 key pillars. What are they?
Okay, first pillar, meritocracy. Leaders chosen based on capability, character, vision, not just who they know or what group they belong to.
Makes sense. No more patronage.
Second, economic decentralization. Policies that ensure resources and opportunities are distributed fairly across all regions, not concentrated.
Equity. Okay.
Third, strengthening democratic institutions. This means guaranteeing credible elections, upholding the rule of law, ensuring the judiciary is truly independent.
Crucial foundations.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Fourth, social integration. Actively promoting inclusive policies to tackle the root causes of those ethnic and religious divisions we talked about.
Building bridges.
And the last one.
And finally, 5th, educational and technological advancement. Using education and technology to drive innovation, improve how government works, and critically create wealth and opportunities for everyone.
Wow. It's a really holistic blueprint, isn't it, for rebuilding the nation practically.
It is very comprehensive.
So this raises the big question, though. How does such an ambitious renewal actually happen? How does it take root? The Nigerian patriotic youth, they emphasize the critical role of elites of good standing. What do they mean by that?
Yeah, that's key. They describe these as individuals who are knowledgeable, patriotic, and progressive. The argument is transformative leadership can only emerge if these influential people actively get involved in politics, reverse any tendency to stay on the sidelines.
So a call to action for certain people who might have been disengaged. Exactly, step up. And the pathway, according to the document, starts with, well, acknowledging past failures and committing to a fundamentally different future.
Okay.
It requires building enduring political networks that promote dialogue, consultation, and collaboration among such elites. The aim is to create real strategic influence within Nigerian politics.
Building networks.
And this, they suggest, will help form a new political party. They even tentatively name it the All-Democratic Alliance.
AD. Yeah.
And the vision for this party is important. It wouldn't be just another, vehicle for someone's personal ambition.
Right.
It's envisioned as a platform for genuine democratic engagement, the ultimate goal, to systematically accelerate the dismantling of the structures that enable the dominance of the old guard.
Dismantling the old structures. That's a tall order.
It is. They also point to the League of Northern Democrats, the LND, as an example, and attempt to create one such pathway, at least for northern elites who fit this description.
Interesting. And it's not just about these new political structures, is it? They also talk about civil society and the media.
Absolutely crucial roles. They contend these groups are essential for, well, several things. Exposing reasons for past failures, advocating for policy changes and educating the populace.
So creating the right environment.
Exactly. Creating the conditions needed for new leadership to actually emerge and gain traction. And also for attracting international partners, getting them to align their support with initiatives that genuinely promote good governance and human development.
So it's about building an entire ecosystem for change.
Yeah.
Not just hoping one person gets elected.
That's the idea, a whole ecosystem.
Okay, this ambitious vision, it really prompts a natural question. Does a leader like this even exist? Someone who embodies this? And the document, rather compellingly, offers a concrete example. Dr. Umar Ardo.
Yes, they focus quite a bit on him.
They present him as an intellectual, a historian, a lecturer, a political strategist, described as someone whose deep insights and strategic thinking are sort of central to the kind of leadership they're advocating.
And they give examples, like his commitment to meritocracy. They mention he developed a leadership selection template.
Oh yeah, what's that?
It's called the Order of Means score. Essentially, a structured framework to numerically evaluate potential leaders based on defined criteria, competence, character, things like that, trying to make selection more objective.
Trying to take the guesswork out.
Or at least the bias. They also highlight his personality. Charismatic, confident, down-to-earth, and humble, but also assertive and thoughtful, always backing positions with provable facts and historical evidence.
Sounds like a unique combination.
It does.
And Dr. Ardo is also the convener of that group you mentioned, the League of Northern Democrats, the LND, a group dedicated to reshaping northern Nigeria's political path.
Right. His core belief, they say, is in merit-based leadership and the need for these enlightened elites to get involved.
And he's actively doing this.
The document notes his active engagements with key regional groups, like the Ariwa Consultator Forum, a major northern socio-political group, and the Middle Belt Forum, representing communities in the central region. It shows he's committed to building broad alliances regionally and nationally.
Okay, so regional focus, but with a national outlook.
That's exactly how the Nigerian patriotic youth frame it. While his politics might seem regionally focused initially, they clarify it's ultimately nationalistic. They explain he has a deep understanding of the historical decline of northern leadership.
Okay.
But his work to restore that influence is presented as an integral component of a stronger, united Nigeria. It's not about separation, it's about strengthening the whole by strengthening a key part.
I see. Any examples of that national view?
Actually,
Yeah.
yes, a really fascinating one. The document reveals that Dr. Ardo was the person who conceived and developed the strategic blueprint advocating for power shift to the South-South.
Really? Back when?
And, get this, he apparently initiated and guided the 2007 Dr. Odili for President campaign as the director of strategy.
Wow. Okay, that does show a strategic mind working on a national level, not just regionally, working for the unity of the whole country.
That's the picture they paint.
So it's clear Dr. Ardo is presented as someone who isn't just, talking about Nigeria's problems. He's actively trying to find workable solutions.
Yes, boots on the ground, so to speak.
The document mentions his regular meetings with former presidents, Obasanjo, Babangida, Abdulsalami Abubakar, and other major leaders like General T.Y. Danjuma, Martin Luther Agwai, Dambazao, trying to tap into their experiences.
Seeking insights, yeah. Looking for the best cures for the social malaises and governance ailments, as they put it.
And the general feeling, according to this source, is that his work with the LND could become a very significant political operation for the North and for Nigeria overall.
Significant potential, they believe. And they argue his actions and character really set him apart from what they call ordinary politicians.
Also,
They highlight his candor, his willingness to speak plainly, even if it's controversial, his courage, fearlessness, decisiveness, and his use of historical knowledge to tackle current problems. He's portrayed as someone who doesn't shy away from conflict if he thinks an issue needs resolving.
a different breed, perhaps.
That's the implication. And the Nigerian patriotic youth, they make a very strong assertion about his potential. They suggest that from sheer activity of mind, Dr. Ardo will very soon become incapable of being anything other than the country's president.
Wow. That's quite the statement.
It's incredibly bold. The document basically concludes by emphasizing that as the 2027 election cycle approaches, and given the need for this profound shift away from power for narrow interests, it is people like Dr. Umar Ardo that should be looked out for.
A very direct endorsement, it seems, highlighting him as the exemplar.
Absolutely. A singular figure in their view of the political landscape.
Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive, the core message from the Nigerian patriotic youth seems crystal clear. Nigeria is facing this urgent, almost existential call for a fundamental political renewal.
Yes, urgent and fundamental.
Their document gives us this detailed critique of past leadership failures. It outlines a really compelling vision for new kinds of leaders and even identifies, concrete pathways for this change.
And gives a very specific example.
Right, exemplified by figures like Dr. Umar Ardo.
So this deep dive, then, it really provides a detailed framework, a way to understand the kind of change being advocated. It moves beyond just vague wishes for something better to a more strategic, principled approach. It's about building a whole new political architecture, really, from the ground up, not just, patching up the old leaky roof.
A new foundation.
Right.
Okay, so what does all this mean for you, the listener, as you're watching things unfold towards 2027?
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
Well, this deep dive really suggests that Nigeria's destiny, according to this scape at least, lies not in just continuing with maybe failed leadership models, but in the audacity, the courage to embrace real change, not just rhetorical promises we hear every election cycle.
Real substantive change.
Exactly. So here's a thought to leave you with as you follow the political landscape, as you consider Nigeria's future. This deep dive really invites you to ask yourself, what specific actions and qualities, going beyond just the talk, beyond the rhetoric, will you be looking for from those who promise to bring in this new Nigeria and lead this crucial political renewal?
What does real change actually look like in practice?
That's the question. Something to think about.